And we are live. My name's John Paul Berg. This is Dumb the Wiser. I'm fortunate enough to be joined today by Mr. Kris Ericson. You all know from his X account. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good, brother. It's really good to have you on for a conversation. We've been interacting with each other's accounts for a while, so it's nice to actually meet you, even if it's virtually.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure. So what did you think of the Calgary Stampede? Everyone's pancake flipping skills, and how pertinent is that for the media to be discussing?
I can't do it anymore, man. Like I just can't. It's like it's like a script. We see it every year, and they got to go out and do their things. I think everyone putting on a cowboy hat, playing the role, it all just looks like a theater to me. I did like seeing Carney get booed, though. That was nice. That warmed my heart a little bit, just to say, hey,
it was a little nice.
Reminds me that we're not alone, right?
That's right. I would have liked to have seen Pierre get booed too. Let's boo them both. They both got their cowboy hats on. They're both about as disingenuous as individuals as you could be. Right. So I mean, for me, it's just like let's get into the Uni-party.
Exactly. It would have been fantastic. I think that would have given me a lot of hope to see. But we got a lot of work to do on waking people up, and so that's why we get on the horse every day, ride at dawn, and do our best to try and help people.
100%. That's what's going on right now. It's like, I think finally now, after that last election cycle, the populace or the electorate is becoming demystified with the whole process. And there's numbers every day that are coming to X, and they're coming to social media with the whole precept of just trying to get like an honest opinion of what's occurring. And to my utter dismay, I'm finding that there's a lot of these X accounts, and I'm not going to call anyone out. That's not my deal. But they seem very disingenuous, and it seems like they're pushing narratives too. It's just big egos, man, just egos and assholes, to be crude. That's what you encounter with the vast majority. Now, with that said, there's a good 30% that's legitimate, concerned Canadians that are trying to feel around. But when I seen it, I started to think, yeah, I really got to start speaking on here and having conversations with other people, making end rails, we'll say.
Yeah, it's important. I think it's like as you progress through the whatever this storm is, really, I think you get that feeling, and I get the feeling as well too. You got to do more, and as you go through the process, more time. As the further we get away from 2020, I think more people are healing. They have a chance to see what's going on and remove the rose-colored glasses. I mean, human beings are that's what we are, right? To be in a situation where you have to accept that we have a disingenuous parliament, and that is putting it lightly, you're stuck because you can get into that cognitive dissonance. Okay, well, if no one's standing for us, that's a very scary place to be. But it doesn't have to be, right? I think that's why it's like, for me, knowing the truth and being real about it and maintaining an authenticity on here is not easy, right? Like we talk backstage about it, right? You don't pick to stand in the middle and start pointing at everybody. But my thing has always been, you have to be able to shoot straight, and I'm not trying to scare people with my posts. I'm trying to help encourage people to be awake to that degree and slowly lean them in. Like, I mix it up as much as I possibly can. But in the end, if you don't understand the truth, then you have no plan. If you're giving your power over to these people that really are not serving our interests at all, then you're going to be putting your family at risk, yourself at risk. And so as we head further into this storm, as we come out of the eye of the storm, I guess is kind of where I view it. We're heading into some difficult times. We got to be as real as we possibly can with people, and not have the right armor, so that when people come at you, the arrows are bouncing off you, as opposed to a couple of years ago where I'm taking them like Boromir on Lord of the Rings and standing there with a chest full of arrows, right?
It's an important point to make, because once you get on social media, especially X, and you start speaking your mind, the bots and the bad actors start trying to demoralize you. It's like they'll literally attack you on that level. But when I started growing, I realized early on, it's like, okay, I'm getting a lot of praise. And for me, it's like, I have to put that in perspective. The praise is just as potentially detrimental to what I'm trying to do as the naysayers are. Because ultimately, that's what I've seen happen. I think a lot of these X accounts I kind of referenced were sincere when they started. I think they got on here. I think they ended up getting audience captured. Maybe they were granted a little bit too much access to the CPC, and then they felt like just that access was enough to kind of slant them and make them less objective when reporting. And it's like, that's not what we need right now. Like the whole reason we're on here and we're garnering followers, people that are speaking about politics, is because the media, the corporate press in Canada, the Fourth Estate, abdicated their responsibility in informing the population. They're just pushing narratives. It's not just fake. It's like, it's very abundantly clear that it's fake. It's so pronounced. Like, it's like you said, it's theatrical, right? And then I look at the whole system, man. It just makes me think it's this elaborate performative charade at this point. And it's all to act as like this distraction for the peasantry. So we have the illusion of participatory governance. You know what I mean? It's like, it's in Roman times they had bread and circuses, and in modernity we have the politics, right? We all get in our little tribes like as if they're hockey teams, and when someone criticizes our leader, as opposed to like a substantive response and an answer for the criticism, we just jab back. And that's the tribalism that occurs. And when nothing changes, nothing changes. And here we are, right? So it's really good just to have started this podcast and looking to actually speak to different people and see where we can all find common ground and just provide something that is authentic. Look, I might not be getting everything right. That's for damn sure. I have no credentials to mention, but one thing I'll assure is I will do my diligence to be genuine and kind of maintain that authenticity while I'm speaking to people. Mm-hmm. Which is, that's what I find is lacking in the space a little bit. So it's good to be.
It's true. You got to be able to own, like you can never get everything right. But as long as you're coming from a place of authenticity, then I think that resonates with people. It's like you're not trying to mislead. You're not trying to cast spells over people, which is, and I'll come back to what you were saying in regards to some of the CPC promoters. Mm-hmm. It is, they're. I've always viewed it kind of like the Shield, right? It's like even when we looked at the COVID event, right? It was the government doing something and then the public's doing the policing. They're enforcing. They're the ones making you feel uncomfortable if you don't wear a mask, or kicking you out of your family if you don't enroll in these medical trials. But when it comes to the protection that these shills, and I'm not going to name anybody either, but at the same time, when you look at what the service they provide to the party, and this is interesting because I keep an eye on Per Poilievre's post, and you can see after the election that his engagement rates went way down. And go into his comment sections, and it's nothing but attacks, right, from people. And so all of a sudden I start saying, I got a call from Pierre Poilievre. And I'm like, that's a sign of desperation from me. I'm a political guy from the backside. It's like, I can see the CPC having a meeting saying, we got to get these people back on board. How do you do that? You love bomb them. It's very narcissistic, right? And so some of them, they may believe what they're saying, but I also think that a lot of them could even very well be, it's like, well, yeah, it's bad. I got to pick a team. It won't affect me if I play the game. Poilievre and the Conservatives will take care of me, which is forgetting history as far as the way things go. If this is continuing to move into whatever you want to call it, globalist, technocracy, communism, whatever you want to look at. So you're only as useful to them until you're not useful. And so you're giving a piece of yourself over by doing that. And you might be scared. There's so many different reasons. So I don't attack them. There's been a few days where I'm kind of like, yeah, I feel it. I'm just like, I got to say something. How much you being paid? And I've done that a couple of times and I delete it because I'm just like, I want to call them out because you are not helping your country. You are not helping. You think you are.
Convoluting an already convoluted national discourse. We have citizens that are really terrified, and they finally conjured up the strength. And it takes strength just to get on here and start looking around because you're afraid that your neighbors are going to say you're nuts, right? The typical admonishment, like you say, where the people act as the enforcement body of it, that's your classic mass formation. And we're still in a little bit of that since COVID. We all seen the extreme example with COVID, but I mean, at this point, elbows up, all of it, right? That's the mainstream media is just, it's almost doing us a service because it's so absurd at this point that people are they're reaching their limit with it. They know things are getting worse, like progressively getting worse. Nothing's getting better. And they're starting to think, okay, they're lying, right? And they're very, very tentatively, very apprehensively coming on social media. And then they end up finding some shill. And then they think, okay, well, this guy's an independent voice, right? Like, and little do they know, like even modest followers, like, around my level. Like I got like 27,000. There's people at that level that are just, and it's like you said, I'm assuming they're paid. It could be a multitude of things. Like I don't want to make that assumption. They could genuinely believe their own rhetoric. I mean, I fell for Pierre for a little while, definitely. So I try to be careful with that, but with some, it's like you say, you could tell. It's like, okay, this is very contrived and very insincere, and it's coming off, and it's really hurting themselves, because this market, like I said, it's emerging and gaining relevance relative to the media sucking. So I mean, once the people start to get, you know, kind of like singing one tune, like they're going to lose authenticity, and I think their market is going to reflect that. They're going to not be as popular as they would be otherwise, right?
Over time.
100%. And with people on X, where it is interactive, you could be called out. And that's what's happening. I'm seeing a lot of these shill accounts being called out more frequently. But there's so many psyops. Let's get on to the Uni-party for a moment. So I was a Pierre Poilievre supporter. I was like a lot of other Canadians, post-COVID and post-restrictions. I was like very disenfranchised with the government in general, and I was looking for a champion. And I didn't I wasn't super enamored by politics. I wasn't on here, you know, I got on here around 2022. So I mean, when Pierre Poilievre, who I feel was preemptively propped up to capture that disenfranchised contingent of the electorate, when I was at some of those early rallies, and I seen guys that looked just like me, I waited in a line to get a picture with Mr. Poilievre. So I remember, for me, I was entirely demystified at the point of the Jordan Peterson interview. Jordan Peterson didn't really grill him on any hard questions, and it was another walk in the park. And I was looking forward to this because I thought finally someone like Mr. Peterson is going to definitely hit him hard on some questions, and he didn't. And right then, man, it's like that was enough. I had like a big public, like I just can't do this anymore, because I was making excuses for a while. This is like already when he barred his ministers from speaking with Christine Anderson. This is after like all the feckless pandering and cultural garb. Cultural appropriation is a ridiculous concept, but I mean, in his instance, I don't know, man. It made me rethink it, because it makes you look like such a sellout. Like, even if I was an Indian and I seen someone dressed as an Indian, I would think like, wow, you're a disingenuous human. That's how it would strike me.
Absolutely, man.
But yeah, it's good to see some more people waking up to it. So when I noticed your account kind of calling up the Uni-party, that was when we really started interacting with one another a couple of months ago. And it's like, all right, we got to talk. Me and this gentleman have to have a conversation.
It took a while for me, right? Like, but I never supported him. Like, I was always because I had the same problem with O'Toole, right? Like, I would call it O'Toole and I would just get hammered. He's not elected, you know, wait till he's elected. You're a liberal, you're helping the other side. And I'm kind of like, okay, I didn't feel like I understood it, because again, Trudeau needed to go. And for me, it's been, for the last 5 years, it's really been, I want the boot off, because I know so many Canadians are suffering. And I thought to myself, okay, if the Conservatives get in, it's still a path to globalism, in my opinion, just a much slower pace. But at the very least, psychologically, for the millions of Canadians that have been traumatized over the past few years, I could justify my silence in saying, okay, right. And then it wasn't until, the 3 years of sloganeering, and it drove me crazy. And I'll note something here, which you mentioned as far as the, you know, getting the disenfranchised voice. Poilievre announced his campaign February 5th, right in the middle of a convoy. Which I always thought was super suspect to me. Yeah. And so I'm kind of like, okay, so now I view it, when I look back at it now, it's kettling, right? I don't know who gave him a call, Klaus, whoever gave him a call. Get your ass out there, buddy. We're losing exactly control.
I thought,
right?
It was preemptive on their behalf. Like, so think of it as a psyop, right?
Exactly.
And I mean, at the same time, I think they were truly concerned for the first time, because controlled opposition works best when they're opposing something. But the Conservatives had become so similar to the Liberals at that point, and there was so much disenfranchised individuals within the electorate that they had to preemptively do something. Yeah. So that's when I think they were like, hey, let's prop one of our ministers up. Pierre's been a career guy. You know what I mean? We'll pop him up with some very feckless, sloganeering rhetoric that he can regurgitate. And that's what they did. And that's why, like, he wouldn't speak to any contentious issues when he was pushed. Like he kept
Drove
that.
me crazy.
It's unbelievable, man. And the whole time you're watching it, like for my process in my mind, I'm like, okay, I really want to shit on this guy. Like I want to publicly like just put it out there, but I felt pressured not to, because again, and this is how a classic controlled opposition works, right? Think of them like herd dogs. You got one herd dog that scares the herd to the right, and then the other herd dog scares them back to the left. And despite this back and forth, the herd continues to go towards the fence, more centralized control. And that's what's happening. So I really think it was like, in retrospect, you could see it. And then coincidentally, a stronghold for 2 decades for the Conservatives, Pierre's seat, he loses it. He doesn't even mention some of the gerrymandering. And then where's he going to go get a new seat? In rural Alberta, so they could stick a fucking cowboy hat on him. Pardon my vulgarity.
And interfere with the Alberta independence.
That's
thing.
it.
Like, that's what I thought. And it's like, for the first little while, like the difficult part, like I think you know with my account, like I walk the straight line, right? Like I am not a member of any party. I am not, so I know that, the fear and everything that was going on. So for the first year of the sloganeering with Poilievre, the Christine Anderson thing, that was like, okay, I got to swing. And so I spoke out about it, and you just get mauled. You get mauled by the CPC. Don't you dare. You're going to give the Liberals the win. Right. But then last November, it got to the point where I felt like I was starting to be disingenuous by silencing myself when I start to see a lot of these things that really bothered me 3 years. And for me, man, I don't care if you're left with, I don't even like using the labels, but if you're conservative, if you're PPC, if you're liberal, throughout our country, we experience trauma, and we're still experiencing it. So when you have all these issues that aren't being addressed, as far as what they did to kids during COVID, like you stole early childhood development, you don't acknowledge you did any wrongdoing, you're not providing them any mental health services or any apologies that people need in a lot of cases to be able to heal, to know that they were wronged, right? Then we can look at MAID, I mean, man, the list is so long when you look at what I would describe as depraved indifference as to what was done to people in 2020. So I don't care if you're liberal, you did not deserve to be abused. I don't care if you're concerned, you didn't deserve that. So when we see 3 years wasted sloganeering at the very end to be able to have Carney come out and say, oh, we're removing the carbon tax, we removed Trudeau. So you spent 3 years, what did you accomplish? You stole time from us.
That's exactly what he did.
And that's why it looked like a giant stall tactic for me. And then when he lost his riding, Ginny Byrne, I'm not sure who, I think it's Ginny Byrne is the name of the lady that I used to be in politics. If you redistrict and you bring still, the fact that they didn't fight back on that, his riding, his seat was stolen, and he said nothing. You have all this gerrymandering going on, not even just in his, it was all across the board. And I'm in BC, so I could speak like large as far as what went on in our election with the controlled opposition, where they said nothing. That's why I come around saying, hey, if you don't fight, what are you, right? And all the major issues that I am against, as far as the UN Agenda 2030, the Paris Accord, we can go through all of it, the WHO pandemic treaty, all of these things not even on the radar. And these affect our sovereignty. This affects, if there's a pandemic, again, like I have no faith that these people will stand up. I remember, man, one of the worst times in all of this was when I was told that if I don't participate in this medical experiment, that I'm going to be segregated from society. I lost friends. I didn't really lose too many family members, because for some reason it was just like, yeah, no, we're not participating. It's like, but when it came to friends, cutting through colleagues, I lost a lot of relationships in that situation. As did many Canadians, more so than, like, if you lost your job, or if you were married and you had to have that discussion with your wife, and I'm going to get the shot, who's going to get the shot, so we don't lose our home, all of these coercive tactics that were used. I remember it wasn't until the convoy, that hopelessness, that what is going on, and the Conservatives were not only not fighting back, they were supporting what was going on. We're all in this together.
Yes.
Right. And I'm like, really? And so now we were in a situation, I'm like, how can we vote for all of these people, let alone, let's not, we can spend another hour talking about the foreign interference that isn't happening.
That's right.
So all of these issues, when it comes down to, like, I'm a patriot, but I got to the point where it's like, what is Canada? What am I patriotic for? Like, how much of this was an illusion?
That's what hit everyone at the same time. And that was when coincidentally Trump started singing the 51st state thing, which just totally hit like an explosion on the political scene in Canada, as it would.
Mhm.
But to stick on the Uni-party for a moment, it's funny, man, because I really, really wanted to believe, and I think that's where a lot of people were. We wanted to believe in Pierre.
Mhm.
Um, because he was, like I say, propped up preemptively with this populist thing. And I think a lot of us were just hesitant to jump off that bus, even when it started to become clear to us. Like, I still supported him after the Christine Anderson thing. Like I said, my seminal moment was the Jordan Peterson interview. But at the same
Yeah.
time, there was a psyop that was being run, I feel, against the PPC. And I have no affiliation with any political party or groups, neither. I
Mhm.
think it's important for me to maintain um objectivity, to not be. So I
Yeah.
intentionally, I don't, I'm
Me too.
criticizing and scrutinizing politicians and public servants. I'm not joining them and advocating for them. I
Right.
I won't do that. With that said, anything that I think is good, I mean, you can respect my opinion on. Okay, well, at least he does think that. He's not pushing that because he's captured in any regard. But I think that the whole, you've seen it mostly on X, where you and I spend a lot of time, is this toxic tribalism between PPC and CPC. And just watching them do it, they looked like bots. Like, and I know they weren't, but that's how bad the programming is for individuals with the
Mhm.
tribalism
Yeah.
in this system. I think all that stuff about Maxime Bernier, I don't think any of it was true. I think a lot of people put that out there just to discredit them.
Mhm.
And then the psyop was in motion. And like you say, again, it was a perfect characterization. Is it's like the people are us ourselves. We become the enforcers on these narratives, and we're on there fighting for them. It's wild to see, right? So it's
It's so
interesting.
self-defeating, and the people don't realize it, right? Like I would say that again too, I don't I'm not affiliated with any party, and but at the same time, if I was to say, okay, who would be the most fun to sit down and have a barbecue with and listen to music? Yeah, like I have a lot of people in the PPC that seem to be far more in tune with what's going on. But at the same time, I think that's where we see the biggest difference in the States, where you have the MAGA movement. They did it from internally, right? And so when we have in our situation a lot of our anti-globalist, actual conservative traditional values have been kettled off into the PPC, right? And then the big problem is that the CPC members, the way they fight is so toxic. Like when I look at things as far, because I used to be a mediator, right? And so when you look at, when you're a mediator, okay, how far apart are the two sides, right? And I'd be like, there's nothing I can do in this situation because people are both, and deservedly so. You can take a look at what happened to Maxime Bernier when in the leadership race there. I've
Yeah.
always had suspicions as far as what went on there with Scheer, but the things are so toxic. And the problem with that is that the CPC benefits from that. They literally benefit. The PPC does not benefit from engaging the way that they do.
Yeah.
Again, not to say that the message is wrong as
Yeah.
far as the counterpointing and stuff like that, but it makes it very hard when you're so polarized on both sides that it benefits the Uni-party much more to have the PPC being attacking. But the problem with it is that the CPC members do not hold their party accountable. And
No,
that is like the
100%.
most toxic component. The shield that they provide for their party is the reason why it continues to happen.
That's
And
right.
again, like I am totally opposed to this group think, this cult-like mentality, as far as that this is our guide, how dare you say anything. It's like my whole life, like I told you before, backstage, people would hire me because they couldn't say anything. They would lose their job, potentially they would lose their social status. I'd be the guy that can come in with the whiteboard and make people look really bad when it comes to, this is the truth, there's nothing you can do to me, right? Like again, in the game, I wasn't married, didn't have a girlfriend for like 15 years, didn't drink. I like had this very straight line of, you are not going to get anything on me. I'm going to shoot straight. And in the end, how the cards fall is how they fall. But there's so many people in the CPC that cannot see the way that they're being screwed, the way they're being manipulated. It's no different when you see, axe the tax, all these slogans, elbows up. It's the same script on both sides. And so on one side, you see, I always describe the Uni-party in a sense is the liberals are the malignant, the grandiose narcissists. You know what they're going to do. You know their agenda. On the other side, the conservatives, they're using the covert narcissist playbook, which is very subversive. It's very insidious. The dealing in false hope and lying, gaslighting completely to their members that they're not globalists or don't have globalist ties. When you point out to them, it's like, did you know that Stephen Harper signed us up for Agenda 2030? Did
Yeah.
you know that Brian Mulroney signed us up for for Agenda 2021? And it's like, but they're like, oh, well, they didn't know. Are you kidding me? Harper, the last thing he did beforehand. And then you see Poilievre on one of those videos that was very telling. One of the things where I think it was Mark Friesen from the PPC went up and asked Poilievre, is like, do you support UN SDGs? And Poilievre's like, I haven't read it. Lied. I don't care what you say. Okay, if he hasn't read it, then he's incompetent.
Yep.
But am I supposed to believe that his mentor, Harper, Baird, all of these globalists, that he didn't know? And so to this day, and this is during the campaign, right? This is when it's during his leadership campaign, right? And then you come around, he's like, I won't have any WEF people go to Davos. And it's like, oh, and then you appoint right now, Andrew Scheer, WEF Young Global Leader, is the interim leader, Michelle Rempel. He won't have any people in his cabinet associated with the WEF. Michelle Rempel is in his shadow cabinet. She's on Twitter promoting the fact that she was a young global leader. But the problem here is that the CPC members won't believe it, and there's some that do. Like, I think that's the problem where I get into that. I don't want to be like, I don't want to be completely, I don't broad brush and say every CPC member is the same in how they handle things, right? But the ones that protect and the ones that distract and gaslight away from the truth,
they have the power.
They have, and again, you're screwing yourselves by believing these people, because in the end, it doesn't matter if the train's going 100 miles an hour or if it's going 60. We are headed towards UN Agenda 2030. UN SDGs are being implemented, and people are sitting there thinking that, oh, just wait 4 more years. So we're going to go from February 5th, 2022, when Poilievre first announced that he's running, to 2029, and their ability to say, oh, we'll get him next time. We'll get him next time. Time is the only thing that we have right now, man.
Yeah, and it's abundantly clear with it's funny because it was a famous soundbite with Klaus Schwab, like, we penetrated the cabinet, but it's like I've been saying, it's like they clearly penetrated the opposition too, and that's been especially clear since the election. But it's again, man, it's wild to see, and it's like in this climate, it's hard to find hope for Canada, because it's like the whole system, like we have a Westminster parliamentary system, and it's systemically undemocratic. It's very archaic. Like, and so many Canadians, this is where I go into the political literacy of the electorate. So many Canadians don't understand the functional premise of our governing system. They just can't grasp that. So it's pretty disconcerting when some of the most passionate arguments I'm getting from people are from people that don't understand the functional premise of our parliament system. But it's rife to be exploited, and it's rife to have these power situations set up. So I look at some of the young people in the Conservative Party, Aaron Gunn being one, the gentleman from True North, his name escapes me. Yes, and Jamil's last name,
Giovanni.
There you go. Like these young gentlemen, like they're brand new, but they get in, and then it's like the nature of it just corrupts by its very nature. It's like in order to garner any influence within that party, you're going to have to appeal to these people that have the power, these people that are clearly compromised. And the biggest thing is like their silence speaks volumes. That's the most telling thing, and I think that's what's waking people up. It's just like, why doesn't Pierre Poilievre go on TV? Hey, I'm going to have a press conference. I have one of the biggest platforms being the opposition leader, and just start calling them out. Like, these guys are globalists. Like, Mark Carney's a central banker and a WEF member. He's here to implement the agenda. If he said that, man, he would have 60% of the electorate right away. I really do. I think the truth rings different, and we all know they're all lying to us. But the fact that he doesn't do that, man, and I don't care. I heard all these explanations as to why. I don't buy it. And the way it worked out, like I said, having to see it in retrospect, him with the cowboy hat on, them both like flipping pancakes and stuff. It's like, guys, we're not a free people, and this is theatrical. And until we could start to realize that, it's a scary thought too, because I truly believe that any deviation from their progressive orthodoxy is going to start to be considered or construed as misdis or malinformation. I think it's going to be very similar to what Starmer did in the UK with jailing everyone for social media. Like, you and I could be having this conversation in person in the Gulag very soon, because once they can get that, Sean Fraser, the minister, has already indicated that they're going to be trying to rehash a version of the Online Harms Act. So, and that's how they do it. So You look at the UK, and that's the agenda. That's the exact same thing that we're seeing being implemented here. And that's how they do it. So we have this weaponized mass migration. It's coming in at such a pace. So then when the electorate starts to and very, very reasonably criticize these policies, it's construed as hate speech. And then anything you're questioning then, well, that's misdis or malinformation. And that's the mechanism in how they're going to silence us. That's clearly the model. And we have the luxury, being Canadian, that we could see exactly what's coming our way relative to Western Europe. And I think we should have seen Pierre Poilievre coming relative to that too, because he's very much a Boris Johnson character. When you look at post-Brexit, the UK, like Boris Johnson was the one everyone went to. He was going to change things. He was going to stop the boats. Nothing changed. And when people ask me about Pierre, because I'm very vocal in calling Pierre out, they say, well, where's your evidence? It's like, well, they're very careful to not leave direct evidence, unfortunately. But there's a preponderance of circumstantial evidence. And when you use conjecture and just do some deductive reasoning, it seems abundantly clear. I mean, people have been convicted of crimes based upon circumstantial evidence. So, I mean, I don't feel insecure about hypothesizing relative to Pierre's loyalties, considering the preponderance of circumstantial evidence, right? But his loyalists will jump on you. That's what they say right away. Well, where's your evidence? It's like, where's your eyes, bro? Where's your God-given capacity for discernment? Can you not see what's going on?
It's like they take the slogan from the PPC, Canada First, right? Yeah. And so on one side, oh, we're Canada First. I'm like, no, he's not. It's like, well, what does he approve? He said nothing about the WHO pandemic treaty. Yeah, so our sovereignty is being forfeited, and I found it interesting because they always give it to Leslyn Lewis. It seemed when it came to any criticism of the vaccines, when it came to anything controversial, it was given to her. And that, as somebody who's behind the scenes, that's by design, right? It insulates the party, but at the same time, it's not the main podium. Yep. You got the biggest podium as opposition, and you're not going to say anything about this stuff. You know, and he played footsies a little bit with the identifying a biological woman. What's about, you know, to try and help her. Again, I'm all for endings. Like we have Soji and Soji. Yep. I think it's all through the country. But when I see kids being mutilated and I see this indoctrination that's happening through the transgender ideology, if you are not, to me, you're not a leader if you can't speak to that to protect children. They don't have a voice for themselves. And so you can't grab the mantle. And I'm not saying we need to see Poilievre be firebrand. We did see him a couple of times when he was doing those little those meetings. You know how much, you know, he has the ability to articulate a position. He has he has the presence, the look to be able to be that guy, but he chooses not to. And so when they say, oh, he can't, the media will tear him apart. And it's like, are you a pussy?
Yeah. And well, that's
like, seriously worried about the media.
We need someone brave enough to take some arrows. That was something you said earlier. I don't know if it was before we started broadcasting.
That was on this, I think. Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely need to stand up there and be willing to take some arrows. I mean, pivot, be smart. But you have to speak to this presently. And the fact that he's not is all that I need to know moving forward. And
all the harms, man, the medical trials, I still call them, they're still ongoing. All of the evidence is out there. You can't even come out and say, hey, let's have a moratorium on this. Let's take a look at it. No, you can't call like what we see down in the States with Dr. Fauci being dragged in front of Senate committees having to answer questions. Dr. Tam didn't have to. She's gone now.
Didn't we give her a medal or something? We gave her some kind of an award.
And Bonnie Henry, the Order of Canada.
Yeah, something else, man. And that's when I think like they're trying to provoke us. There's a
total trolling, man,
aspect to this. And that's what I say. The first people, like I really think, I believe that the speech laws are coming. And I think the first people they grab, they're going to make examples of, because ultimately they don't want to waste resources on the authority.
No, they need to create the chilling effect.
Yeah, they want us to be afraid, and they want to create a massive disincentive. So just like in the UK, they're going to jump on the first group of people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be similar with a lot of other things, right? It's just going to be, it's like you're watching your country that you grew up in, not just become unrecognizable over the last 2 decades, but especially the last decade. You feel so absent recourse. And I feel like the media is trying to gaslight me into doing something. Like the first people that try to organize a citizens group or start to protest, it's going to be just like Tamara Litch it's going to be the same thing. They're going to just jump on you. You're a right-wing extremist. You're some kind of anti-authority individual. And the whole mechanism there is to disincentivize anyone else from speaking out. This is how authoritarian societies function.
That's why we haven't protested again, because freezing bank accounts, charges.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
And well, we don't have, we like to think we have inalienable rights, but we don't. We have state-sanctioned privileges, and that proves it conclusively. So a privilege can be revoked at any point. Like, you just take it away and you do what you want. And that's what Canada is. And that's kind of what it was meant to be. It's a parliament. It's a Westminster parliament system. It's meant to have a centralizing authority that's able to make moves and do like things that would be unheard of in a constitutional republic.
Absolutely. And then when I first, like I told you before, it's like, I told this many times, like I used to carry the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in my backpack, like copies of it to hand out, you know, when I was doing my advocacy, along with diapers and baby formula and stuff. And, you know, you never know, but it was always, I was always rights based, I thought to myself. And that's why, again, like I take a position now on immigration as far as we got to halt this stuff, what's going on there with this mass migration that's happening into Canada. But I was always like, you know, if you want to come to this country and you want to assimilate, you want to contribute, you're escaping, you know, totalitarian regimes, welcome. Right. I didn't care what faith you were, what your skin color was. None of it mattered, man. It was always content to character.
The same way.
Yeah. If there's merit to your complaint, then I'll take a look at it. And then COVID hit and I'm looking at it, and the BC Human Rights Tribunal said, we're not taking complaints right now. And I'm like, and I look at you read the charter, you read the fine print, man. And just so happened to be Pierre frickin' Trudeau that put that reasonable limitations in. So at any moment, depending on who wants to define what is reasonable, we are in a very precarious position.
That's it. When you've got ambiguous language like reasonable or interpretive language that requires an interpretation, then it's just rife to be exploited. And that's
to be a union contract negotiator, right? It's like what do you mean should?
That's right. Yeah, it's
it's
supposed to be very clear, right? So it can't be misconstrued. That's the premise.
Exactly. Right. And so when you put that in there, and the fact that it slid through and people figured that it was okay, you know, we saw how vulnerable we were in it. But at the same time, like I said before, and I've said, you know, a lot of people can be looking at our circumstances, and yeah, it is not comfortable. There's a lot of uncertainty, which creates anxiety and fear and other things. And I think that, you know, I've always said their number one tool that they want us to be demoralized. And I think that when you're in this perpetual state of anxiety and fear, that's a killer, man. That's going to take years off your life. And so for me, like I've said before, it's like in my 20s, I had to have that discussion in the mirror with myself. Am I going to take this contract or that contract? Because it's going to be risky to my well-being. And in the end, it's like, you got to do what you got to do as far as what I would consider to be right. The easiest path is usually costs you a piece of your soul. And I've never been able to do that. And so in this situation, I try to spend a lot of time, you know, trying to encourage people to heal through this process, to find themselves, remember who they were before COVID, not the blue pill. I'm not saying, hey, go back and you know, just try and forget what happened, because you're still carrying that trauma. But as you work through the trauma, knowing that the Uni-party is not going to acknowledge their wrongdoings, they're not going to fight for you, they're not going to give you any peace. You got to find peace within yourself, and you can do it. Right, carrying that hate and that vitriol, like you said, it's like the media is almost like trolling people because they want to provoke a response. They want to have an example to be able to say, "Oh, we need more laws, we need more this and that." And I think the resilience that I think that a lot of Canadians have is been, you know, I'm so proud of so many people. It gives me hope seeing so many people out there that saying, "I'm not letting you inside my head. I'm not going to let you demoralize me." Whether you say this is my country, or you're going to stand as a sovereign citizen, you still have the ability to make that choice. A lot of it comes up here, man. Most of it, how you perceive the world. Are you a victim or not? And you can make that decision immediately to say, I am not going to be a victim. I know what you're trying to do, but you can, you know what I mean?
It's a framing shift. And that's what I tell people. It's like, you can wake up in the morning. Like I'm a working class man. I work a labor job, and I can wake up in the morning and I can be like, man, I have to go to work today. Or I can wake up and I can frame it as I get to go to work today. Exactly. And I choose the latter. I think that's wisdom in a nutshell.
It's the only way to be, man. It's like I think since I was in my teens, I've kind of viewed this. Actually, I can't say, but because it's like an operating system, right? I go to sleep at night. I do not know if I get tomorrow. So when I wake up in the morning, I am immediately grateful for what I have. I'm like, I get another one. What am I going to do with it? Right. And so I try to find balance in regards to what makes me happy, and going back, and because of the work I did for so long, it was very, very mundane, very dark, very but in the end, the pathway for each contract was dark, but at the end there was always light. There was empowerment. There was the ability for
There was
people
a
to feel
purpose for
there was
it.
a purpose to it, and it was never about me. It was always about, you guys did this, not me. Don't be patting me on the back. Let's all give each other a big hug and have a barbecue. But in this circumstance, it's so important when you wake up in the morning to remember that we don't get a lot of time on this giant spinning ball, man.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing right now, I'm talking to a lot of people that are kind of analyzing this like Canadians, and we're all feeling psyop fatigue. And it is an aspect of demoralization. And it's funny to use that term because it's like Yuri Bezmenov, like, and what Canadians have had over the last couple of decades has been ideological subversion. We get it through the corporate press, the state-sponsored media, and it's just framing Marxist premises. So it's more normalizing. It's normalizing these conceptual frameworks. My daughter, for instance, I mentioned this a lot, but she graduated last year, and her senior year, I was looking at some of even English. Her English papers she was writing, the book reports were just total Marxist propaganda. One story in particular, I remembered. It was relative to an Indigenous young man who was having some problems with his life, and he ended up quitting school. And then it was multiple choice, and it was like, who's at fault here? The child's parents, the child himself, or society at large? And of course, they're looking for, the white supremacist heteronormative patriarchy, that big boogeyman that they're trying to prop up and scare the shit out of everyone. And now with these young people is when we're young, we're wired to have this well-meaning capacity for pseudo rebellion. All of us have it. Like teenagers, you want to rebel against the machine, and it's a noble thing too. It's a noble aspect of people's character. And
it was huge for me, Gen X growing up, no fear t-shirts. And
yeah, man. You want to rebel a little bit. So that what's happening is we're seeing that capacity or propensity from our youth being hacked by bad actors to their own detriment. And it's nothing short of radicalizing them. Because like we'll use the gender thing as an example. Like, so it's not based in science. It's based in fallacious postmodernist conceptual framings. Gender is an abstract. It's malleable and it's infinite in its interpretations. That's bad enough to teach people that. That's a very out there school of philosophical thought called social 100%. Constructivism. But what else we teach them that's even more pernicious, and this is the ticket, is that anyone who doesn't agree with that orthodoxy is hate-filled.
Yeah.
And they're trying to marginalize these subjugated groups. So that makes kids want to get in the street and make it better. And that's where you get your Antifa members. That's where you get all your, and it's like, they're lied to. Really, they're fighting on behalf of a really corrupt system. It's like what Mao did with the Red Guard, radicalize the youth and then utilize them to retain power. We're seeing aspects of this. And it's just like so many people are afraid to speak about it. I think it's because I don't just think it's because it's pretty bold to actually come out and start speaking. I think they're afraid that people are going to say you're crazy. And it's that mechanism is what's preventing us from really garnering anything that's going to be pragmatically kind of resolve this.
Yeah, it's completely devaluing and diminishing, and the narrative they create around it. I never I did my social services diploma, and it was in 2009 and 2010. And it was just starting to creep in there. There was a couple classes I went to, and I'm just like, how did we get to 32 genders? Like, what is, I don't understand. And when it came for me to go and finish my degree, I couldn't do it because I asked how many of these classes do I have to take that are mandated as a part of the accreditation for the credits I need to graduate. And there's no way I could do it. And then I try and I'm like, wait a second, I got my diploma. Now I start looking around to find places to work. And I look into the community services agency, government. Every community has a community services. And it's the same thing. If you don't agree with it, you're out. And I'm like, wait a second. Like, didn't we used to punish countries for doing genital mutilation to women and girls? Like, because I was so outside of it. And then you start looking, because I'm not a parent either, right? So it's like I kind of try and tread my line about, I believe that the parents should have every right to raise their kids. If their child wants to transition, you're excluding them from this conversation. You're just doing it. And so it gets to that point where you have like deviants teaching our kids. Again, our kids, when I say that, I mean Canadian kids.
A collective kids, yeah.
A collective. And there's no out for them. I remember, man, when I was in school, none of this stuff existed, right? And you had tomboys, you had effeminate men. Yeah. But there was none of this. It's like a lot of them grow out of it.
Very accepting too. It's funny because I'm 42.
None of it mattered, man.
That's right. I'll be turning 42 this summer.
Okay.
And I remember that the biggest thing in our generation was we're not going to reduce people to their sexuality. We're not going to be reductive and reduce people to their racial profile.
Same as ours,
because
man.
that's racist. That's the mechanism of racism or identitarianism. But now it's like if you don't do that, then you're not acknowledging your own systemic oppressive capacity, right? It's all bullshit. It truly is. It's based on like Maoist divisive identity politics.
It was crazy.
It's so dangerous. It's so detrimental. Like I said, because these kids that are in the streets crying over Trump and crying over, deportation efforts and thinking it's fascism and comparing it to Auschwitz, they're well-meaning kids. Like we all want to look at them and just kind of be reductive ourselves and say, look at this dumb kid with the green hair. It's like that dumb kid thinks he's standing up against systemic oppression.
Yeah, you got to look at what's going on.
That's right. And they need to be woken up. And how do we do that? I think until the inundation with these fallacious narratives stops, it's probably hopeless. But we can
if we get one more generation, we are in a lot. Well, we're already in a lot of trouble. But again, and when you have the government raising the children, we are in a very, very difficult spot. I'll touch on that. When I was in for my practicums in 2010, I did like an anti-bullying course in schools. I was very much youth counseling based, this kind of thing. And I can remember I went to one of the schools. I'm not going to name it, but at the same time, I went to one of the schools and they're giving me a tour. And we get to the lunchroom and I walk in. All the white kids are sitting at a table together. All the Chinese, Asian kids are sitting at a table together. All of again, I don't want to be, I'm just trying to say as far as what the dynamics were, everyone was self-segregated, right? Yeah. Was never like that in the 90s when I was in high school. Never, ever. And honestly, if you picked on a kid because they were different, people like me, other people were going to set you straight.
That's right. Yeah.
We weren't going to let that happen. So that kind of policing was good, because if you want to start identifying and attacking someone and be racist to somebody because of this, you know what I mean? We kind of policed ourselves as far as, hey, this is Canada. Yeah. We're it's not about your skin color. It's not about your gender. It's not about your sexuality. It was very difficult, I think, back in the 90s still for people who were gay that would come out and be that way.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely was.
But there was, when they did, at least in my high school and the schools I went to, when they did,
they were supported.
They were supported, right? There was obviously some that didn't, but we policed that ourselves, saying, hey,
for the most part, broadly, that's right.
You can get the hell out of here if you can't. Or, you invite them into your group and you invite them out to parties. And so there's like a protective community that came into play. Yeah, people are, and explain to them, not everyone's going to be that way. But we knew as a community that it was that to taking care of one another, not under a communist freaking ideology. It's about, you're a human being. You've got every right to be who you want to be yourself.
Just inherently, we knew that was what was instilled in our generations.
Yeah.
Now I would be considered an elder millennial. I was born in 83, but I very much had that very similar upbringing through school. And it was like, where it was instilled in us, no one would say something rude or derogatory to someone who was homosexual or someone who was, because there was a dissentive, like the kind of dynamic socially that you knew you couldn't say that. So even if you would have been kind of a hate-filled person that wanted to say something nasty, the social dynamic prevented it. That was
there was a few kids that would say it, and I'll be honest, I got suspended a couple of times for setting them straight.
Yeah.
But again, you're right. Like it wasn't at the forefront. It wasn't being pushed on people. It was just live and let live. Right. So I was born in 77. So again, generation, there's not that much of a divide between me and you. Right. And so I think progressively we saw, that's why I say I was quite surprised when I went to university and I sat down for, I think it might have been a human behavior in a social environment. No, or I think it was a gender studies course, but the university was mandating I take this in order to graduate. Right. And I'm sitting there and I'm a mature student. Actually, it's kind of funny because a lot of the kids there thought that I was the professor. But again, so I'm sitting there, and so I'm sitting in the back and I'm listening to this kind of stuff, and I'm looking around and I'm like, I just want to be a social worker. I just want to be able to help people. And what the hell is this? And so I put my hand down. What?
It makes you adhere to it. So they have an orthodoxy set up that they're looking to instill in a certain sector of the populace. So what do? You make these courses mandatory. Yeah. It's just like the DEI training, diversity, equity, inclusion. It's neo-Marxist. It's identity-based. It's divisive. I could tear it apart, and I'm a working class man. Like I could effectively make the argument. And I mean, it's good to see it starting to be rolled back in the States. But I mean, in Canada, we're still full ahead with this stuff. And it's so racist. It's pernicious. It's like,
so
again, man,
racist, blatantly racist.
Yeah, we're reducing people down to their immutable characteristics. That's what we
Mhm.
were like. That was ingrained in me, in every fiber of my being from my upbringing, to not do. It was wrong to do that. You shouldn't reduce people. And when you're telling these people, for instance, these minority groups, when you're telling them that they're a victim, you're robbing them of agency. It's like the worst thing
Totally,
you
man.
could do to tell someone is that you're a victim and it's because of some kind of systemic oppressive structure in society.
Mhm.
It's like you just stole that child's agency. Like that
Exactly.
child could have a beautiful life if he really, stepped up and contends with life and wrestles with it. He could succeed as well as anyone else. How dare you? And that's what these
Exactly.
kids are being told. And it's just utterly pernicious. It's irredeemable in my estimation.
It is, because again, it's like one of those things to tell somebody they're being hired, they're only getting a job or an opportunity, not because of who they are, not because of their content or character, not because of their skill sets, not because they can deliver, but because of their skin color.
Yes.
What are you doing? Again,
And
like you say, and robbing someone from agency prevents growth. And it's like
Mhm.
merit-based society is, again, I think we could probably talk for another hour about merit-based society. If you remove DEI, we still have nepotism problems. We still have the back channeling issues that removes that aspect of merit towards it. But if you're not telling people to strive to be the best, in their field, right? What is your dreams? What is your goals? You work hard to get there, because that feeling, my generation had it for the most part. If I wanted something, I had to work for it. I had 2 jobs when I was 15, so I could play hockey and I could do things, right? That sense of feeling is that some of my friends were like, the rich kids that drive they were taking care of the silver
I had
spoons.
those friends too.
Right. But again, I'm not taking away from it, but they didn't live the same experience as the 90% of the other kids that were in class that had to work hard towards their goals. And that feeling of achievement that you get, people don't realize. A lot of the kids today, they don't want to work. They don't want to do the grunt work. And it's like, which means they've never put a hard day's work in. And then when they get paid, that feeling of self-sufficiency, that
Absolutely.
feeling of pride that comes with that,
Huge
and
moment.
control and ownership, all of these things that they're removing by putting this program in, like you said, that is completely racist. But if you counter it, you're racist.
Well,
If you try to point these things out, right?
Our generation was empowered to do things, right? Like you could do great things. That was what was instilled within us. But now it's like we're telling the kids that like climate change is a thing. Like you shouldn't even have children. We're demoralizing them as an outset. Like we're saying, if you're white, maybe you shouldn't speak up. And it's like, what the hell does your race have to do with anything? Like that's so ludicrous for me to hear. But you hear this. It's like, and you hear all these proponents of these progressive ideologies, and they're like, oh, I'm a white woman, I'm going to shut up because someone else is talking. It's like, well, what if you have
I no longer have value. My opinions don't matter.
It's so silly. And what we did, it's very obvious to people who are paying attention how pernicious this is. But other people are afraid of being admonished as a racist or one of the other isms that go along with it, right? And that's the mechanism we set up. And just to reference again what you said, the people themselves, the populace at large, becomes the enforcement tool or the enforcement mechanism for these ideals that are not organically arising within people. It's literally top down. And it's crazy to see, man. It feels like we're at some kind of crux, though. Like the paradigm is going to shift. It's like I was talking to
the Overton window is doing is just vibrating right now.
Oh my God, it's so distorted. It's just going to whip back into common sense. But I was speaking with Payman, and we were referencing like how does like the right side or kind of more traditional values, like how do you present that? Because the kids, the left, it's that pseudo rebellion I was talking about. You want to fight against the oppressive system. That's kind of where it is. But it's like we've come so far now, and everything's gotten so crazy that it's like it's almost an act of rebellion now to put a suit and a tie on and to be like good in your community and go to church and help your neighbors. That's more of an act of rebellion than it is to get a bunch of tattoos and shave your head and stuff, right? So it's like we should start presenting it as that. Like Western civilization, man, I'm not going to trivialize all of the problems, but it's by far one of the best productive societies we've ever had, allowing people freedom and prosperity. And I mean, for us to just dump the baby out with the bathwater here, I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't change it and we should stagnate in our traditions, but I mean, we're letting go of something that was just great, and a lot of our forefathers fought for our freedoms. Like I mean, a lot of Canadians, I had a lot of people that served in the military on both sides of my family.
And a lot of vets, great people.
Yeah, they'd be spinning around in their graves right now if they seen just how easily we're being duped. Like, it's it is demoralizing to continuously use that word. That's the word for it.
And that's kind of like the way that the counter it, right? Is like, we need people to be able to understand how bad it is. But at the same time, like, how do you connect? That's why X is good, right? I do my best to try and connect through empathy. And it's just like, yeah, when you look at the $1 trillion machine, probably $1 trillion machine, the amount of money that goes into the propaganda wars, the psyops that they keep hitting people with. But I think that's what, the reason why I get up every morning, we always ride at dawn, the motto, is because every day we're waking more people up. What does that mean, right? And people always say, you're just going to keep shit posting. And it's like, well, if you view it as shit posting, then I haven't got you yet. Right. Eventually, there'll be something of depth that will get you to think. That's all I'm trying to do, is get people to think. I'm not necessarily trying to tell people how to think, outside of have a backup plan for a backup plan. Take care of you and yours. Focus on healing. Don't forget to live. Remain connected with nature. All of these things. And like I said, one of the most important things on my journey over the last 3 years, because the first 2 years were so messed up, but the last 3 was remembering who I was before. Not all the bullshit. Right.
Yep.
What did I enjoy doing? What music did I like listening to? What made me happy? What kept me grounded and kept me balanced? I kind of view it as like the movie The Karate Kid, where he's on the boat and Mr. Miyagi's shaking it, trying, and that's what they're doing right now, is they're trying to shake us off into the water. As many chances as they get, they do. And I think as you learn to see it, and as your frame of reference changes, and you're able to kind of take a step back and learn to live in the moment, it's much healthier in regards to what you can potentially get back to your local community, what you might be able to present on X that can give that person a little bit of hope, or make them feel a little less alone, make them smile, ideally laugh every now and again. How do we help keep ourselves human through this process, because it's an onslaught, and I don't see it stopping very soon. But I will say, since I started swinging against, kind of highlighting the Uni-party in November, I've lost track, man. I've had hundreds of DMs from people saying, hey, sorry for blocking you, like people get very responsive and reactive when you first start doing this, but then you get to the ones now where have people reach out to me and they say, thank you so much for opening my eyes to what's going on. I now have a plan for my family. I'm started my healing journey. I start a new job today, because a lot of people are still isolated. It's very hard to get into the mindset of even some level of reintegration. I like many people out there, like, I'm not sure about you, but I wondered for the first couple of years, did you want me in a camp? Right? Like, it's very hard to re-engage in a society that has been mass formed to view you as dirty, to view you as less than, as far as human goes, right? But I've stood my ground through the whole process. Now, I put my headphones in, I walk around, I could give to, I don't care anymore what people think, right? I'm just out
there. The lion doesn't
care
care what the sheep think of him.
Right?
It's very crucial to remember that. And to just touch on your point that you were alluding to, it's like, it reminded me of a Nietzsche quote that I will totally destroy now, but it's along the lines, I'll paraphrase it. It's beware when you're hunting monsters that you don't become a monster yourself. Exactly. So, I mean, and that's what it is. This authoritarian kind of feel that's going on through all the Western democracies. It's like, while we're fighting this, we got to remember what makes us human and what makes us want to stand against this, right? Or else the demoralization tactic is it's winning.
It's
we
winning.
Can't let that happen.
Yeah. And some people say to me, right, it's like, are you black pilled? I said, no. I'm a realist. But at the same time, I say it all the time. We don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't even know if we get tomorrow. And so having a positive attitude, or being there for people, anything that can be done to help people feel less alone, and to encourage people to re-engage within their own boundaries, within their own capabilities, as far as what that level of comfort is for themselves. But if we have people continuously saying, hey, yeah, it's bad, well, we got to learn to smile through these storms. And for everyone, again, I don't want to minimize. I understand a lot of people are going through some very difficult times. They've probably, they've lost people, you know what I mean? Like, again, for everyone, there's a different level of weight in regards to what they've experienced over the past 5 years. But overall, you have to be in a situation where you have to understand yourself, what makes you anxious. Because again, like, with referencing going out, being in a hyper state of hypervigilance, right? Having your situational awareness peaking, right? That vibe, it is an energy sapper, man. I'm not saying go out there and be vulnerable and you know what I mean? It's like, because again, we could spend another hour talking about trust and what was done there is making friends and reconnecting. But having that sense of agency within yourself to say, no, I'm not letting you in here. You're not living rent free. And finding those things that allow you to maintain that level of balance. Most importantly is understanding what it feels like to be balanced, so that when you are deregulated, you know you need to meditate, you know you need to go and do something to get yourself back to that square, because many mentors, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're no good to anybody else. And so that's kind of like, I have a sense of duty. I got to keep my shit together, because I want to make sure that I am not putting out there hate, violent, a lot of this dark stuff that we can see, people promoting violence, wanting a revolution, all this kind of stuff. That's not going to work, right?
No, that would be utilized against anyone right away. Even if you're like, if your rhetoric was sensational, they would utilize that against you and shut you down. It's the Gandhi approach is the only hope for Canada, but I'm hopeful, man. I remain optimistic, because this could change in an instant once everyone realizes what's occurring.
What is going to be that flashpoint, though, right?
Gets me up in the day, and it's kind of excited. It's kind of a good thing for us to close on. It's that's why we're all here doing it, and we'll continue to do our best with that. I want to thank you though, Kris, man. It was awesome talking to you. I'm so grateful that I have so many people that are willing, first of all, to speak with me, because I'm just some weird dude from X, right? I mean, for all you know, you could end up on a live broadcast and I could be clearly out of my mind. But I think it's very important for us all to make endrails with each other and really speak to one another and try to get to the bottom of this. And like you said, I really like your content, because there is that aspect of it, the kind of self-healing aspect, because we're all feeling a little demoralized. We've been fighting this thing for years, and it's just continuously looking dark. No matter what we seem to do, it doesn't seem to get any better. So it is very important to kind of focus on yourself at times. So
for sure.
With that,
if you don't mind, can I plug something? It's something to give people some hope at the same time. A friend of mine, the Remanded, I'm in British Columbia, Canada, and we had a lot of election anomalies. And so I asked him to send me a little thing to and I'll put it underneath the podcast for people to check out. But there's a citizen-led lawsuit that's going to be going against Elections BC. And there's so many different anomalies that happened there. And we're in kind of a similar situation where the Conservative Party that lost, they aren't really conservative, and they aren't much fighting. They aren't much for fighting when it comes to things. So it's one of those things that can give people hope. Again, you never know how these things are going to go. But at the same time, we can't be sitting on our hands not doing anything. And so I wanted to give him a shout out. I'll just give his handle for anybody that wants to follow him. Well, I'll just read this real quickly. It's a citizen-led.
Take your time, bro. I'm in no rush.
All right, man. Okay, so it's a citizens-led lawsuit into the most recent BC election. The irregularities and more. I'll just give a couple of points, and then I'll send you off to his. I'll send the people who are watching off to his account on X. So the irregularities and more: 165,000 plus voters missing from the registry, 1,000 unallocated votes added to the total, delayed information requests past deadlines, media false statements and ballot boxes added, votes added after the election, missing registered voters. And so those are just some of the components, and he goes through it in a lot more detail as far as which sections of the election code were violated. So all we're trying to do here is provide support for the people that are doing things that are, getting off the couch and actually trying to do something to invoke, more reasonable change. We can talk about whether, I have a very little faith in our institutions, but that doesn't mean that we cannot force them to the table and give us answers as far as that goes. So the account is at the Remanded, TheRemanded, and I'll actually add and Shareware Canada, which is at ShareAwareCDN. And I'll put the links underneath the podcast. I appreciate you letting me say that, because I want to try. I'm doing more to try and focus on stuff with what's going on locally. We have another group here, BC Rising. There's a lot of people doing things. And so I'll finish off with encouraging people not to sit and wait. I think that you got to get out there and find something that speaks to you, and help out. Get involved, start connecting with like-minded people, build a community locally. And if you have something that you want to do, and no one's doing it, do it, right? As long as it's within the legal framework. Like you say, I'm very much a Gandhi kind of guy.
That's right.
But if we can't stagnate, and if you stagnate, the demoralization has a much more likelihood to penetrate. And remind people you have value, you have capabilities, you have transferable skill sets. Get out there, get involved, and do more. We can all do more, like you're doing. You're starting your podcast, and I'm considering doing one, but I'm also mixing things up to try and have more of to help others amplify their message as well. So,
absolutely.
Thanks for that,
Absolutely,
man. And thanks for having me on, man. Anytime.
Dude, it was a pleasure, Kris. We have to do this again. I could tell we there's no shortage of topics you and I can get on. We could fill time all day long. But it was awesome speaking with you, man. I love your message. I love your content. Keep it up. And do you want to say where everyone can find you before we let it go?
Sure. Yeah, I'm at K Ericson. Here, I'll spell it out so that everybody knows. I'm only on X. I'm at K Ericson, Eriksen V2 is my handle. K Ericson V2.
Awesome. So, all right, everyone. Thanks for viewing. This is Dumb the Wiser. My name's John Paul Berg, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.
Thanks again.